Ever walked out of your local corner supermarket with a single carrier bag, looked at the receipt, and felt your stomach do a proper backflip? You only nipped in for some milk, a loaf of bread, and a bit of chicken for dinner, yet somehow yours 10 quid lighter than you expected. You've probably been telling yourself it's just inflation, or maybe you're just bad at maths. But what if I told you that those quick, innocent top-up shops are quietly draining hundreds of pounds from your bank account every single year? What if the shop you trust, because it's right on your doorstep, is using a highly optimized, completely legal system designed to make you spend more money for less product without you ever realizing it? By the time we wrap up this investigation, you're going to know exactly how a major high street rebrand quietly bumped up prices by 50% overnight on thousands of everyday items. I'm going to show you the hard laboratory data from independent consumer champions proving that you are paying a massive premium just for walking through a smaller door. We're going to break down how the cheapest options are deliberately vanished from the shelves, and why the UK's own competition watchdog is deeply worried about who is actually footing the bill for all of this. Stick around until the very end, because the most shocking revelation isn't just how much extra you're paying at the till. It's what this aggressive corporate expansion is doing to the actual fabric of your local high street right now in 2026. After today, you will know more than 90% of shoppers, and you'll never look at a convenience store shelf the same way again. Before we name the specific culprits and look at the receipt data, we need to understand how the convenience supermarket model is actually built. Think of a massive out-of-town superstore like a cargo ship. It moves massive volumes of goods efficiently, buys in colossal bulk, and spreads its overheads across acres of space. A high-street convenience shop, on the other hand, is like a delivery van. It has higher rent per square foot, requires frequent, smaller deliveries that jam up local traffic, and has almost zero storage space in the back. Because of this, the industry operates on a completely different set of rules, but they don't exactly put those rules on a poster by the entrance. The first big trick of the trade is layout optimization based on profit margins rather than your nutritional needs. If you look closely at the architecture of a convenience store, the prime real estate, eye-level shelves, end-of-aisle displays, and the massive rows running down the center isn't filled with raw ingredients or basic staples. It's packed with what the industry calls high-margin products. We're talking about ultra-processed snacks, fizzy drinks, and ready meals. It's the retail equivalent of a cinema popcorn counter. The system is designed to maximize the revenue generated by every single inch of shelf space, squeezing real, whole foods into whatever tiny corner is left over. Another systemic issue is the deliberate manipulation of choice, or what retail experts call range editing. In a giant superstore, a retailer might stock 5 different tiers of the same product, from a rock-bottom basic budget line up to a luxury organic version. In a smaller local branch, that ladder of choice is completely kicked away. The budget line disappears entirely, forcing you to step up to a mid-tier or branded alternative. You haven't made a conscious decision to treat yourself to a premium product. The system has simply removed the affordable alternative before you even picked up a basket. Finally, there's the psychological trick of the casual spend. Because we use these shops for top-up visits rather than the big weekly trolley shop, our brains don't register the cumulative financial damage. Dropping 15 quid 3 or 4 times a week feels completely harmless compared to watching a massive 3-figure sum flash up at a superstore checkout, but that casual, friction-free spending is exactly where the trap snaps shut. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts for your monthly budget, delivered with a smile and a loyalty card swipe. And once you see the actual numbers behind this machinery, it becomes impossible to ignore. Let's dive straight into the heart of the matter and look at exactly how this corporate machinery operates on the high street, starting with the biggest players who set the pace for the entire market. Think back to May of 2021, when Tesco made a massive corporate decision that flipped the script for millions of British high street shoppers. They announced they were completely retiring their medium-sized Metro format. Now, for years, those 89 Metro stores sat comfortably between the gargantuan out-of-town superstores and the tiny local express branches. Tesco's official explanation was that shopping habits had changed, claiming that nearly 70% of Metro customers were using those branches for casual convenience trips rather than the full weekly trolley shop. So, they decided it made logical sense to rebrand them all as Tesco Express. What they didn't shout from the rooftops, however, was the immediate pricing consequence of that little signage update. The industry trade Bible The Grocer reported that this specific conversion process triggered a massive repricing exercise covering up to 6,000 individual products across those branches. And can you guess which way those prices moved? Absolutely up. Reports at the time documented that shocked shoppers noticed instant price hikes of up to 50% on certain lines, arriving essentially overnight. One regular customer shared publicly that a bag of pink lady apples, which had cost £2.50 at their local Metro, instantly jumped to £3.25 under the new express pricing structure. Their observation was a proper zinger. It was literally cheaper to walk across the high street and buy the exact same apples from the premium M&S food hall. To make matters worse, Tesco Express branches do not participate in the Aldi price match scheme. The very second those Metro signs were pulled down, every single competitive price guarantee vanished into thin air, leaving local shoppers unprotected from inflated high street rates. If you already feel like checking your own kitchen cupboards after hearing that, hit that subscribe button right now. Because the data gets significantly harsher from here, let's talk about the hard cash difference this makes over a single year. Because the independent consumer champions at Which decided to run the laboratory numbers on this exact phenomenon. They tracked the prices of 75 identical everyday groceries across standard Tesco stores and Tesco Express branches every single week for an entire year. The final calculation was an absolute jaw-dropper. A shopper relying regularly on an express store could end up paying a massive £817 more over the course of 12 months than if they had bought the exact same items at a larger Tesco branch. The average weekly price gap was £15.73, and during their worst recorded week in mid-November, the disparity for a single comparable basket hit nearly £20. Look at the individual products and it gets downright insulting. Tesco's own label sweet potatoes were found to cost 37% more at an express store than at a standard superstore branch. Think about that for a second. It is the identical product, wrapped in the identical plastic packaging, sourced from the identical farm, sitting on a shelf just a few miles down the road, yet you are charged more than a third extra just because the shop floor is smaller. A further investigation by Which in 2024 took a basket of 42 common grocery items and found that even when you applied a club card discount, the typical express bill still came out roughly £10 more expensive than buying the exact same basket at a large superstore without any loyalty discount whatsoever. Tesco's standard corporate defense is that smaller high street stores genuinely cost more to operate due to premium rents, smaller deliveries, and restricted storage. That might be true on a spreadsheet, but it doesn't change the reality that the neighborhood store has become a financial minefield for the unsuspecting consumer. Now, let's look at who is actually taking the biggest hit from this convenience premium, because the demographics are incredibly sobering. You might assume these high street express shops are mostly used by affluent professionals grabbing an expensive ready meal after work, but the data tells a completely different story. Research shows that 2/3 of people in the UK earning less than £21,000 a year do their grocery shopping at convenience stores on a weekly basis. For millions of these households, it isn't a lifestyle choice. It's a structural necessity. They don't own a car, they have limited physical mobility, or they live in urban areas where the nearest budget superstore is miles away. Academics at the University of Bristol investigated this exact issue and quantified what is now widely known as the poverty premium, the extra money that lower-income households are forced to pay for basic goods and services simply because of the constraints they live within. For groceries bought through high street convenience stores, that penalty works out to approximately £490 per household every single year. The UK's official competition watchdog, the Competition and Markets Authority, addressed this head-on in their published findings. They explicitly stated that lower-income households and those with difficulty traveling are often completely reliant on convenience stores, which tend to be more expensive and mainly stock-branded products. That is the government regulator's own words. The corporate image of the friendly, helpful neighborhood shop completely crumbles when you realize that it functions as a regressive tax on the exact people who can least afford it. Let's look at the next big brand tactic that dominates the high street convenience market, which is the total disappearance of budget ranges. If you walk into a full-sized Asda, Sainsbury's, or Tesco superstore, you are greeted with a genuine ladder of value. You have the value tiers like Just Essentials, Hubbard's, or Tesco Stockwell at the bottom, the standard own brand in the middle, and premium branded items at the top. Your budget dictates where you shop on that ladder. But walk into a Sainsbury's Local or a Tesco Express, and those entry-level budget lines are completely nowhere to be seen. The Competition and Markets Authority noted this exact trend, observing that supermarket convenience stores frequently stop stocking almost all of their lowest-priced budget essentials. When space is tight, corporations deliberately axe the products with the thinnest profit margins. If you nipped in needing a simple tin of chopped tomatoes to make a pasta sauce, the 35p basic own brand option is magically missing. Your only options are the standard own brand at 85p or a branded tin like Muti or Sirio for well over a quid. You haven't made a luxury choice. You've been structurally coerced into a premium spend because the cheaper alternative was barred from the building, and it doesn't stop at the shelves. Let's talk about the digital side of this convenience squeeze, specifically Tesco's rapid delivery service, Whoosh, which promises to drop groceries to your doorstep in as little as 20 minutes. It looks like an absolute lifesaver when you're busy, but most users are completely blind to how the underlying pricing engine works. Whoosh orders aren't picked from a massive, efficient distribution hub. They are fulfilled directly from your nearest local express branch. Tesco has openly confirmed that all Whoosh prices are pinned directly to the elevated pricing structure of the express store fulfilling the order. A contributor to the money-saving expert community decided to run a live test, ordering 20 standard grocery items through Whoosh and comparing it directly to a standard Tesco online delivery basket fulfilled from a main superstore. The rapid Whoosh order came to £56.25, while the exact same 20 items via the standard superstore delivery came to £39.70. That is an astronomical difference of £16.55 on just 20 everyday items, completely hidden beneath a small delivery fee that most consumers assume is their only extra expense. It turns out that convenience isn't just a service they sell you. It is a premium baseline they apply to every single tin, loaf, and pint before you even check out. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. Because while the big high street chains have spent years perfecting the art of the convenience surcharge, you do not have to be a passive victim of their revenue per square foot optimization models. There is a completely different way to approach your grocery shopping that claws back those hundreds of pounds without forcing you to change your geographical location or spend your weekends driving to an out-of-town retail park. The alternative isn't about compromising on quality. It's about choosing retail models and specific brands that have rejected the artificial inflation mechanics of the express convenience store. Let's break down the smart, genuinely affordable alternatives that are sitting right on your local British high street or available for direct delivery to your kitchen counter, starting from the absolute champions of the budget-conscious kitchen all the way up to premium. Transparent delivery solutions. First up on our list of recommended routes to safety is the undeniable powerhouse of high street value, Lidl's own label essentials, specifically their deluxe and standard everyday ranges. While the major express chains are actively removing budget items to protect their margins, Lidl built its entire global corporate philosophy on keeping shelf counts low but volume exceptionally high. Because they don't waste square footage on 5 different brands of the identical product, their operational costs per item are practically subterranean compared to a high street express branch. Let's look at the sensory reality of swapping out your high street top-up shop for a quick pop into a discounter like Lidl or Aldi. If you buy a standard own-brand pasta or tin of tomatoes from an express branch, you are often forced into a mid-tier price point for a completely unremarkable, watery product. Swap that for a pack of Lidl's deluxe bronze dye pasta or their premium chopped tomatoes, and you are getting authentic, thick Italian imports that hold sauce perfectly. Now let's look at the price analysis, because this is where the premium convenience illusion completely shatters. A basic pasta meal sourced from a high street express store using forced mid-tier alternatives will easily run you around £2.50 to £3 per portion. Build that exact same meal using Lidl's premium own label items, and your cost per serving plummets to less than 85p. Independent tracking data from retail analysts continuously confirms that a full trolley shop at these deep discounters regularly beats the major high street express equivalents by up to 40% on price while offering identical, if not superior, organoleptic quality. The only real downside here is the lack of a traditional loyalty-driven home delivery network, meaning you do have to physically walk through their doors. But the raw cash savings make that minor inconvenience worth every single step. If you are someone who absolutely requires the convenience of home delivery, but refuses to pay the hidden 40% premium tucked inside services like Whoosh, Your definitive answer is Okado's own range paired with their hidden value champions. For years, people assumed Okado was exclusively a playground for affluent shoppers who wanted expensive organic treats, but their corporate alignment with Marks and Spencer and their massive investment in automated robotic fulfillment centers changed the game entirely. Because they operate from hyper-efficient grid warehouses rather than picking items from cramped, expensive high street store shelves, they don't have to pad out individual product prices to cover local urban rent. Their own brand everyday items, from British semi-skimmed milk to blocks of mature cheddar, are consistently price-matched against the major supermarket standard superstore baselines, not the elevated express rates. When you open an Ocado delivery, the difference in handling is immediately obvious. Fresh items arrive in climate-controlled vans directly from a central hub, meaning you completely escape the short-dated, bashed-about-stock issues that plague the front shelves of local convenience shops. In terms of budget, a typical weekly top-up basket on Ocado using their Value Heroes collection keeps your cost per use completely flat and transparent, giving you a full superstore tier receipt delivered right to your flat. The caveat? You do need to book a delivery slot in advance, meaning it won't solve an emergency pizza craving in 20 minutes, but as a structured alternative to the casual high street bleed. It is an absolute financial lifesaver for those moments when you genuinely need premium quality cooking ingredients and refuse to accept the ultra-processed, high-margin selection that fills the center aisles of local express stores. Your destination should be Booth's or the dedicated M&S Food Hall Remarkable Value Range. Let's be completely honest and avoid idealizing them. If you walk into an M&S Food Hall and buy their top-tier luxury prepared meals, you will pay a premium. But if you stick strictly to their Remarkable Value blueprint, which covers everyday essentials like British beef mince, wholemeal bread, and eggs, you are getting elite-tier supply chain traceability for prices that actively rival standard superstore rates. Expert food scientists and independent testing panels consistently rank M&S foundational ingredients at the absolute top of the spectrum for meat welfare and fresh produce longevity. When you cook with their basic mince, it doesn't dissolve into a pool of gray water in your frying pan like the anonymous, short-dated meats, often found languishing on the bottom shelf of a local express branch. You are paying a fair price per serving, roughly £1.20 for a substantial protein portion, and getting a product that actually stays fresh in your fridge for more than 24 hours. It proves conclusively that you don't have to subject your finances to hidden convenience markups just to get real, decent food on your plate. To make sure you never get caught out by these convenience store traps again, here are 6 concrete rules you need to follow every single time you step onto the high street. First, always look at the bottom shelf for the unit price per 100 grams or kilograms, because convenience stores deliberately hide the higher volume, better value packaging options or omit simple label seals to prevent you from calculating the true cost of what you are buying. Second, if you are buying fresh meat, dairy, or bread from a local Express or Sainsbury's local, never take the item right at the front of the shelf, always reach to the back of the tier because the industry relies on a strict first-in, first-out rotation system that leaves short-dated items right where you are most likely to grab them. Third, remember that a loyalty card discount at a high street convenience branch is not a true bargain. It is simply a temporary reduction of an artificially inflated baseline, so always compare that final price against a standard superstore rate before assuming you have saved a single penny. Fourth, treat the center aisles of any local convenience shop as a high-margin danger zone and actively stick to the outer edges of the floor plan where the real, unprocessed cooking staples are located. Fifth, completely delete rapid delivery apps for your weekly top-up needs because buying your groceries through an app that sources items from an express branch means you are paying a double premium on every single item before a delivery fee is even calculated. Sixth, check the checkout screen in real time as your items are scanned, because official watchdog data proves that convenience store formats have a pricing error rate 3 times higher than larger supermarkets, and the vast majority of those mistakes result in the customer being overcharged at the till. When we look at the big picture, the entire high street grocery sector has been engineered to turn your need for geographical convenience into a highly lucrative corporate revenue stream. Supermarket chains have realized that by shrinking their store footprints and moving into local neighborhoods, they can quietly remove affordable budget ranges, inflate standard shelf prices by up to 50%, and rely on your busy schedule to mask the financial damage. You do not have to be a passive victim of a corporate business model that views local communities as high-margin territory to be mined for maximum revenue per square foot. By making a single deliberate shift in your daily habits, swapping the casual multi-visit express top-up pattern for a structured, superstore tier or discounter alternative, you can instantly stop the steady financial bleed and protect your household budget from these hidden high street penalties. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this full investigation into what is really happening on our local high streets. If you have a friend or a family member who constantly nips into the local express shop for their daily bits without realizing how much it is costing them over a year, please share this video with them right now, because raising awareness is the only way we can push back against these completely non-transparent pricing practices. Hit that hype button if you haven't already to help this data bypass the corporate algorithms, and let me know down in the comments exactly which of these convenience brands is sitting on your street corner right now. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we have a massive expose coming up next on the hidden mechanics behind major